Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Danny and Stan's Football Weekend. It's presented by NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com. And this time around, we don't have any football that has been played to talk about, really. We just have football that is going to be played, and we have some other issues around the NFL that we'll be talking about as well. But, of course, the major focus is the big game on Sunday, and the monolith that is the National Football League is probably no better shown than by the fact that they actually have succeeded in terrifying everyone into never saying Super Bowl as far as a commercial property is concerned. But the Super Bowl will indeed be played. There, I said it. Come sue me. On Sunday, it'll be the Chiefs and the Patriots, a legacy game. We'll talk about that as well, the strategic aspects of the game. And, of course, at this time of year, we always get to talk about Stan's football game that he's created also, and that he and his friends play, and oftentimes give a very good indication of what is going to go on in any football game, but particularly this one this time around as the Chiefs make their second consecutive appearance in the Super Bowl, try to win back-to-back in the Super Bowl for the first time in almost 20 years in the National Football League. All kinds of things at stake as we talk football with Stan Weber. It comes up straight ahead, presented by NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
It's time now to get some great assistance on healthcare with Chad Beisel from NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com. And Chad, even your business's name would indicate that you have a real aggressive way and an important way to go after some health insurance for your clients.
What I've found out in the industry is just a lot of people are really confused. They don't know what plans are good, what their plans offer, how they cover. And so I've just taken the approach of being really educated on what options are available to clients and showing them all the options that are available and making sure they understand them so they can pick and choose what options are good for them.
And one thing that's really important, of course, is access to doctors and hospitals.
Absolutely. That's becoming a big issue for a lot of people. Some of the plans out there are going to restrict those clients to where they can and cannot go. So if you live just outside the Kansas City metro, some of the counties outside, you may not be able to go to some of the hospitals up here in the Kansas City area. So making sure that you have a plan that's got doctors and hospitals and places you want to go is really, really important today.
Learn more by visiting NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com and let Chad help you. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092.
Right now, it's more important than ever to support local businesses. And 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence is open and ready to take care of you. Make 23rd Street Brewery part of your KU game day experience, whether you watch the game there or grab curbside pickup for your tailgates or watch parties.
But not just game days. 23rd Street Brewery is great any day of the week, and when the weather's nice, you can take advantage of their heaters on the patio. 23rd Street Brewery is open daily from 11:30 to 9 for dine-in, carry-out, curbside pickup, and can even help with your catering needs.
So support local and visit a Lawrence favorite, 23rd Street Brewery.
It's time to visit once again with Dr. Brad Woodle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. And Dr. Brad, your group has reached a significant milestone in receiving a prestigious award.
Danny, we've been honored for the 10th year in a row to receive the 5-Star Service Award from Integrity Doctors. And what this means is that all of our offices throughout Kansas City have made sure to give people excellent chiropractic and acupuncture care, be on time, and do a very complete and thorough job, and have great responses back from patients.
I know firsthand because I was just treated, for instance, today by you. You have a wide range of fantastic services.
Absolutely. Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies, rehab, anything that you need to keep you well in bones, muscles, joints, and nerves.
And I can't say how much it's benefited me in the time I've coming here, upwards of 2 years. My back has improved 100%. And you can have that same kind of treatment too. For more information and your chance for a healthier way of life, visit asfca.com/Danny today.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Stan, always a pleasure. A couple more to go here before we switch to other things in the world. Of course, the National Football League is a 24/7, 365 type of league, but as far as playing football is concerned, there is one game left. And a few days after we did the podcast last week, I was sitting around, and I think I did it on a podcast as well, but the thought came into my head that this thought came into my head, which I will explain in a moment. And subsequent to this thought coming into my head, which I thought was kind of unique, and I said, I don't think anybody has thought of this. Everybody had thought of it. Sam Mellinger wrote a column about it, and I ended up talking about it with Saran Petro, and the thought was that if Patrick Mahomes wants to be the GOAT, he has to win this football game. And I think that is true. Now, I think people will still recognize that maybe he is the greatest player of football at the quarterback position, but as far as accomplishment is going to be concerned, and playing what is probably his last matchup in an important game with Tom Brady, they wouldn't play each other for 4 years in a regular season game. They both have to reach the Super Bowl. But anyway, Tom would be ahead 7-1 in Super Bowls, and head-to-head, he would have lost an AFC title game and a Super Bowl to Tom Brady. Do you agree with my assessment that if Patrick Mahomes, and I think he does, we saw another counting of fingers in the AFC title game, 2-2, he's looking at him like, they said I was the same as Josh Allen for the second-best quarterback in the league this year. But anyway, so I think he thinks about these kind of things. Does he have to win this game?
It's likely because Tom Brady's already set the bar very high. And if he is able to win another Super Bowl, obviously, the count's 7-1. So a lot of work left to do if that's the biggest indicator that we'll focus in on. And based on Pro Football Hall of Fame inductions and how we analyze things, especially with quarterbacks, we do talk a lot about Super Bowls. And the fact that Tom Brady will have won a Super Bowl with a second team, Danny, not with Belichick around, and in the first year that he did it, those things all become important. But I think the biggest one is something that you kind of talked about a little bit in saying that Patrick Mahomes has been the starting quarterback for the Chiefs for 3 years. And I don't think he's lost any of the important games because it's hard for me to say, looking at the NFL rules, when they went to overtime with New England in his first year as a starter and Tom Brady drove him down the field to score the game, I just cannot put that on Patrick Mahomes and say, well, you lost that game. I think if the Chiefs would have got the football, I think Patrick Mahomes would have driven the ball down the field. So here we are with a Patrick Mahomes who's made the AFC Championship game right on the cusp. It didn't even get a chance to go further in overtime. And then 2 Super Bowls in a row. This is on a pace that's outrageous, never yet seen. I mean, Dan Marino went to the Super Bowl and took the world by storm in his second year and then never went back. So we're on an unbelievable pace where he actually can be considered with a straight face. I wasn't lacking in engagement when you were talking about him being the next GOAT. I mean, are you kidding me? How could we be talking about that? But what he's done so far, and then if he wins 2 out of the 3 years, he is on his way to make a big push in every category and opportunity, carrying the Chiefs to places that he may be the greatest player of all time. But if he loses this game, I think the biggest factor is Tom Brady, who if you and I went down 100 people around here that we really trust and say, who are your top 5 quarterbacks? I don't know if anyone would name Tom Brady in the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. It's hard to even get him in the top 5, and he will have won 2 Super Bowls in Patrick Mahomes' unbelievable 3 years. And to me, that's the biggest trump card you have. Okay, Patrick, you have been unbelievable. You've done everything right. You were on your way to being the GOAT, except for in those 3 years where you've lit up the world and everyone says you're the best, Tom Brady won 2 of the Super Bowls. That would be a hard one to overcome. Not only the 7-1, not only the head-to-head, but to me, that's the most dramatic statement out there, and he would have done it with 2 different teams if Tom Brady gets it done.
This game, I think, is it's fascinating. It's the Super Bowl. Of course it's fascinating. But, I mean, it's fascinating because you can start to tick off all these things. If somebody said, what's the most important thing in this game? You could say, well, I think Tom Brady's the most important thing in this game. He's been making some mistakes in the postseason. If he cleans those up, and he's done a lot of good things too, but if he cleans those up, that's important. Patrick Mahomes has played great all the time, so you really almost don't point to him as a key because he's a given more than anything else. The Chiefs will be down to basically their backup offensive line, and they won't be without their two fine tackles in this particular game. That can be seen as a key. The pass, and tying into that, the pass rush for each team can be seen as a key. The Chiefs' coverage was so outstanding in the AFC title game. There's all kinds of things that you can look at in this game and say, well, I think that one's the key, but then somebody else says, no, I think that one's the key. I think that one's the key. I mean, that's what makes it interesting.
It really does. And, another one that needs to be added is how will the game be officiated? Before, for many, many decades, you'd said the game was officiated one way in the regular season and they let them get by with more in the playoffs, or the players are more coordinated, don't need to grab to make plays. But we do know, however you want to talk about it, there were less flags in the playoffs. And this last few years, we've seen this touch football mentality. I'll call it touch football because I don't really like it. The biggest lacking thing for me, I love the NFL, always have, is third and long bailing out quarterbacks and teams with, illegal contact 5 yards down the field, holding on a 7-yard route. It's not even close to a first down. Or some pass interference where the ball is completely underthrown, the DB does nothing wrong, and the guy jumps back into him. Or something. Just that play is ugly in the NFL, but they carried it over from the regular season decently into the playoffs. We saw the same craziness. In fact, if you're a 49ers fan and you go that offensive pass interference on a tight end on down the field, I mean, that was a giant play in the game. And every year except for last year, that wouldn't have been called against the offense, when he reached back with his hand and gave a little shove to the Chiefs defender and then caught the ball down, about the 10-yard line or something like that. Gettle caught the ball there. The game was called consistently. But this year, did you watch the playoffs and the championship games, Danny? The flags never came out the whole game. In fact, when Tampa Bay got the pass interference call against Green Bay late, everyone was looking around going, you really threw that? Because everything had been allowed. So the physicality of the defenders is going to matter. How much did it help the Chiefs that the flags weren't being thrown out there? I mean, they were blanket covering, doing a great job, making a whole new statement about the Chiefs' defense, which I'm sure we'll get to here in a little bit, because I'll be changing my tune. If you listen to all these podcasts over the last 3 years, Danny, you're going to hear something different for the first time about the Chiefs' defense. But how much is it that they get to be physical? What happens if Tampa Bay is allowed to be physical with Tyreek Hill and keeps Kelsey? They beat him up and they don't throw flags. That's what Belichick did when the Rams were the greatest show on turf, and Tom Brady's first Super Bowl was an upset. What they did is beat the heck out of the Rams receivers, and they didn't get flags because it was the playoffs, because it's the Super Bowl. So there are so many aspects to it that you can go down. We'll talk about some of them, but the officials now, to me, become one because I couldn't believe how the championship games were officiated. It seemed like it was old, like 1984. Sort of like, hey, this is the way championship games are officiated, but it hasn't been that way in modern history. How will this game be called?
Tom Brady, he really played really good football in the AFC title game to get the lead. Looked sharp, throwing the ball deep. He really seems to have more zip on the football than maybe he's had in 5 years. I don't know.
Maybe ever.
Yeah, but then he's made mistakes. He's taken chances. He's had a guy in his face and just whipped the ball up in the air, up for grabs, although Mike Evans didn't do him any favors on that particular play. But he's taken more chances than he does. You could usually count on him being sound, efficient. If he is sound and efficient in this game and dollops in the big play or two, Tampa's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, I think he's the biggest variable in this game, because before we get too far along, I want to state, if the Chiefs play their best game, they win the championship. Tampa Bay is a legitimate Super Bowl foe. I've been saying that for weeks, and there's a lot of reasons. But if the Chiefs play their best game, then they're the best team. I mean, you just got so many weapons, and the defense is now playing at a higher level. So that's the first thing we look at. But then the biggest variable, because it's hard for anybody to play a perfect game. The Chiefs have been competed with all year long. Even the Cleveland Browns were within 5 points and had the football and all of that. So we've seen a trend to say, okay, the Chiefs are playing a close game. It's a Super Bowl. Then you go to Tom Brady and say, how will he play? Because if he plays his best, he'll be converting on third downs. That was a big thing. They want to stick and develop the running mentality. But so often they end up with 3rd and 7 after 2 runs. And what did they do in the game, in the championship game in the NFC against the Packers? They just completed a 3rd down pass every time. And he made, okay, guys, I bailed you out. Let's go back and do what you want. Balance the offense, run or pass. It makes the team better. I thought, they did a great job. I thought Tampa really outplayed Green Bay early, and Tom Brady led the orchestra in a perfectly tuned singing environment. But then he starts throwing interceptions. So can Tom Brady be good on 3rd down? Can he be his normal self? Can he cut out turnovers? If he cuts out turnovers, I expect the excellence on the other sides to be there, and now Tampa's chances increase tremendously. And the next variable is, will Tampa be able to run the football? And I think when you talked about my game, we are going to play a lot more games this week. We just dabbled into it last week, Danny.
Right.
My guys are going to be meeting Monday and Wednesday to crank out as many games as possible to see what trends we find, what things. But the early indications are, how will Tampa's running game work? Because they're going to invest in it. A lot of teams, as you've seen, Danny, you and I have talked about it, they get away from it. Cleveland Browns, first half, what the heck? Throw. And they had a very dynamic running 1-2 duo. Tampa's not like that. Those guys could be stuffed at the line of scrimmage. This is not, the Chiefs give up yardage in the run. Tampa is a variable. Some running plays look really good, and some look really average. If they are sitting there pounding 1- and 2-yard runs and it's 3rd and 7, it's not likely Tom Brady's going to have the same success he did against Green Bay. But what happens, Danny, if they get a 7-yard run and they can run 3 or 4 times before Tom Brady has to make a big pass? Now they put the Chiefs on the defensive. So I think the biggest variable is Tom Brady. If he makes mistakes, the Chiefs win. If he doesn't make mistakes, wow, we're going to have a shootout to the end. And then the next thing to look at is Tampa's advantage. If they could actually get balance in their running game, gain yardage, then they could cause a new problem to the Chiefs that the Chiefs really haven't seen all year, because we've seen everyone abandon the run.
Right. What we know is a fact is that the pass rush for Tampa looked very good against the Green Bay Packers, against a good offensive line. The Chiefs will have a makeshift offensive line, but hell, that's been the case really the whole time that basically the Patrick Mahomes has played, although Eric Fisher has been healthy throughout this particular season. But what strategically do you think the Chiefs are going to have to do to combat that pass rush, and how much will that mitigate the freewheeling aspect of the Chiefs' offense?
I'm going to be on the leaning side of my best buddies, even to today, that I played football with in college, were offensive linemen, so I feel very comfortable taking the heat for saying this. And I'm not on some island with you, Danny, with a microphone. I got to face these guys. It doesn't matter to me who the offensive linemen are very often. I mean, it is so overrated. The NFL, here's what it is. The NFL lines are not that much different. From the 25th best offensive line to the best is not that much different. That's the thing I'm pointing out. Not that the offensive line doesn't matter. It's just that they're not that much different. And with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they'll be able to work around this easily. Unless you're down by 14 points and you got to drop back and throw every down, then it'll be some problems. But in a normal flow of a game where the Chiefs will probably be ahead and in a close game, let's call it, they'll be able to work around it. Now, what will it change? They may not be able to throw the ball over the top to Tyreek Hill, which is where Tampa Bay is their biggest weakness. Tampa does not like you to throw the ball deep against their secondary, and the Chiefs lit them up. You know the whole story. You've seen the tape, Chiefs versus Tampa Bay, Tyreek Hill going off for over 200 yards receiving. You may not be able to get those throws that far downfield. You may have to throw quick. But look what happened. The big play to Tyreek Hill of 70 yards or whatever it was against Buffalo was just a quick slant,
right?
And there he is on the run. So they can be dangerous and work around this. I don't think it's any problem at all because the Chiefs have 2 weeks and a multitude of strategies. So will the plays look different? Yeah, but they all look different. Not to you and me. I mean, we're sitting there, we're watching the game, and we're just watching this show, and the Chiefs are unbelievable. But they can stretch you side to side. They can throw the ball down the line. They can throw the ball quick. They can adjust for these pass rushers. And could it cause problem for the Chiefs? Absolutely. It is the biggest question mark. Can Tampa's front get after them and cause an incompletion or two, or maybe a bad throw, which doesn't ever seem to happen. But could you get a sack instead of him? How about against Buffalo? Patrick Mahomes turned sacks into what, a 10 or 12-yard throw to Kelsey for a first down and a 25 or 30-yard throw to Tyreek Hill. Should have lost 6 or 7, and they're instead getting plays. That could turn around. But I think the thing about Tampa that makes them dangerous overall, and I think it's important because I don't think Cleveland had it, and I don't think Buffalo had it. They were not ready to compete at this level on this stage with the Chiefs. The mental toughness, the readiness, you got to make a play, let's make a play. Those two teams are up-and-coming teams that have a good future, and the fans ought to be very happy. They're dangerous. But Tampa is a little bit different. Rob Gronkowski is not worried at all about the Super Bowl hype or being across from the Chiefs' mighty football team. I mean, he's just going to play his game and believe. I think Jason Pierre-Paul, he's been around, man. He's been with the New York Giants. He's been in Super Bowls. You go down this lineup, Levante David, he's been around forever. It's a whole grown-up thing, okay? They may not be as fast and athletic as the Chiefs, and that's why the Chiefs get first choice to win the game. But when you're going to wait for them to fold and make mistakes and not be ready to go win a Super Bowl, that's where Tampa's going to be different than even Green Bay. Green Bay is all about Aaron Rodgers and the dysfunction, I call it, between the coach and Rodgers and the rest of the team. And they usually work well in the regular season, or Rodgers puts the team on his shoulders. But when you really press them, can Green Bay really perform? No. He's only been to one Super Bowl, Danny.
Right.
Tampa Bay, you can say Arians and Brady are at each other's throats or whatever you want to say, but they've worked through that. And Arians is just a guy who's just not scared.
Right.
I mean, what's that big thing he's wearing on his chest? I mean, are you kidding me? These are pictures that are going to be in the history books forever. What's he doing wearing that? That looks awful. Does he have a heart monitor? I mean, a heart pumper? Is his blood flowing through there? No, he doesn't care. Arians doesn't give a rat's ass what everyone else thinks. He's just there to do his thing, you know? And so I just think these guys are ready. Now, the guys who might not be ready, like a Mike Evans, okay? Because you mentioned it on the interception that Brady threw up for grabs on the right side. Everyone wants to blast Tom Brady and say that's the worst play ever. I think it's the worst play ever by Mike Evans because
when the ball went in the air, I thought he was going to catch it.
I think I mentioned on your podcast before that you got to know the coverage. You got to know if the blitz comes and you got to look in your inside and he's running that route on the right side, he's got to look inside and go, I'm on an island man-to-man. They're blitzing, so Tom's going to throw this thing 1,000,000 miles high, and I'm going to have a jump ball. And instead, he runs the route like it's going to be delivered over his right shoulder, in stride, perfectly. Tom's not going to do that. He's like, hey, I'm going to throw you a jump ball. Do you see the blitz? But I'm not sure Mike Evans is always up to speed with what's going on at Super Bowl caliber. Yet he's the guy in the red zone who can make big plays. He's a star receiver. But is he going to be ready for this primetime? But I think the front wall, the front 6 or 7, however you want to say, Danny, of the Tampa Bay defense, this will not be too big for them. They play good defense. They're one of the few teams that stuff the run or slow down the run. And when it comes to pass rushing, I think that they'll be ready to go win a Super Bowl. But that isn't enough against the Chiefs if they play their best. And I think Andy Reid will draw up stuff that'll just mitigate it. You're going to have to execute. You can't drop balls. You got to block and make jukes and run, because if you throw the ball down the line of scrimmage, it's not as reliable as throwing it 10 yards down the line. But the Chiefs can still get their offense rolling.
You're a guy who loves bowl games, loves all the things about it. This game will be completely different for these players. They're not going to have the real Super Bowl experience. They're not going to be sitting at a podium. They're going to be 9 players on a Zoom in each particular case. What do you think this has any impact football-wise? Do you think the teams will be more focused? Do you think the fact that maybe they'll be more uptight because they didn't have to get to have some fun during the course of the week? They just did COVID stuff just like they always have, and they're going to go in there on Saturday, the day before the game, just like any other road game, basically. And Tampa has a little advantage. Obviously, they're playing in their own stadium, but they won't have hardly any fans. There's 22,000 fans, and probably maybe 5,000 of them will be Tampa fans. I don't know. Maybe, because the league gives out a lot of tickets. There'll be 7,000 healthcare workers there. So no home advantage, just a stadium with a few people in it. Do you think that has any impact on the game football-wise?
I think it could, but it won't this game. And again, it goes back to just the veteran mentality. I think Tampa Bay's not, you guys haven't been to Super Bowl forever and you're not going to know what's going on, and you caught a giant break that you didn't have to go through. It's going to be a lot easier to Zoom for 10 or 15 minutes for somebody in their routine than to go to media day and deal with all that. So inexperienced teams have really struggled with the media hype and getting distracted. And then, man, the parties and stuff that you're invited to. I mean, some people say you got to go down and enjoy it. Go to Bourbon Street for one night. Just make sure it's Tuesday night because that's a player's day off, right?
Right.
And they're in town the whole week. None of these things are in play. But these two groups here, they're also not going to miss out on, hey, it doesn't seem like it's a Super Bowl. I'm missing the hype. Enough veterans have been around it that I think they'll be fine being different. The one thing I do think it'll switch in slight gear is with the Chiefs going there the night before the game or the day before, it's just going to be a road game to them. After they get through the media stuff early in the week, it'll be just a road game. And in a sense, Tampa gets a slight advantage because everyone's allowing it to be just a road game for the Chiefs and a home game for Tampa. So it is kind of a home game for Tampa Bay because usually if Tampa Bay were the home team in a normal year, they would kick them out of their facility. Say, you're not using your facility this week. And, oh, by the way, you're in that hotel, and you're practicing over the University of Tampa. And
right.
you have no access. This is a neutral site game. Well, for COVID reasons, no one wants to change COVID protocol. I mean, they're like, stay in your own facility, go through the same things that you do. So, in a sense, there's a small chance that the Buccaneers can go, hey, this is a home game this week, and maybe that'll help their routine. But the Chiefs, all they do is go out and they're undefeated on the road. It just doesn't matter. Well, I love things like uniforms too, Danny. Love the uniforms, okay? Do you realize Patrick Mahomes as a starting quarterback has never played a playoff game with a white jersey on?
Wow.
This was the game I was going to start saying, hey, Danny, do you realize this is the first time? But Tampa, who got the choice, picked white.
Yeah.
So he's going back to the
because they won all three of their games on the road and they won them all in white.
See, they care. I care about that kind of stuff.
Well,
and I thought, the Chiefs are finally going to wear their white jerseys in a Patrick Mahomes starting playoff game, and nope, they're going to look just like they always do. I like that.
It's early in the week. You haven't got to run through all your football games, which I know have an impact on what you think. So we obviously give you the chance to change your mind, and I'll promote the fact that you're on Fridays on Sports Radio 810. So you can revise, update, whatever. But what's your feeling right now about how the game plays out and what the result is?
Well, I think the Chiefs will be the better team, and Tampa will be scarily in range all the time. If it were to play out, these teams should be competitive with each other. I think that the Chiefs are more than likely going to cover the spread. I think it's a little bit tight, but I'm not an expert on that kind of stuff. So I do think, though, the way I would look at it is Tampa Bay has a chance to win the Super Bowl. And is that chance 30%? Probably. And then can it start arrowing up toward 40%? Maybe I'll find out some things this week. But Tampa legitimately stops a run. With the Chiefs' offensive line, they should legitimately put a pass rush together. I think they're grown-ups. I think Tom Brady will step up and play his best game type of deal like he did against Green Bay in the first half. But can he do it for 4 quarters? I don't know. But if he does, if he steps up and turns into Tom Brady, wow, the Chiefs are going to have to play at a very high level to go get it done. But before we leave, I do want to say the Chiefs
we're
defense.
going to do a little football after the break.
No, Chiefs defense. I didn't get a chance to go back to that. All I've said about the Chiefs defense throughout the time, from Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes, is there's been great improvement. Love Tyrann Mathieu, and they've gotten better. But you still, if you invest in the run, can run the football on them. But right now, Danny, with the scales changed so tremendously and defense really lacking in the NFL, Tampa plays defense, and so do the Rams. But other than that, I can't even think of anybody off the top of my head. The Chiefs are now considered, in my mind, one of the best defenses in the NFL. And I am super excited about what they've done as secondary. The ability to blitz with Snead, it's a knack to be able to. Tyrann Mathieu has it, and now you have Snead. If you line each of those guys up on the edge, and one or the other might come on every play, that is unbelievable stress. Chris Jones will blow up a play here or there. Tyrann Mathieu is allowed to be the variable to do whatever they need to go win the game, and now the man-to-man defense is really picked up, and no one's more aggressive than Spagnuolo. He bets on the offense covering anything that he can't deliver on. He's like the little brother who has a smart-ass mouth, and the big brother's over there
ready to clean up
but
the
the
mess.
little brother's starting to win these fights, and no one even knows the big brother's there, if that makes sense. I'm really impressed with how the Chiefs defense has stepped it up, and that is a complete different factor than we've talked about year after year after year doing this.
Sounds to me like you think this game might be a little bit lower scoring than people might think.
I don't know how you don't say the Chiefs get to 30, though.
Right.
So you're sitting at 31-24, 31-27, something like that.
Okay.
With the Chiefs winning. But I don't look at it as just, are the Chiefs likely to win? I think the Chiefs are the best team in football, so they have to win. And you start looking at it from the negative point of view, like, what are the chances that this doesn't happen, that we're not sitting here with the second Super Bowl? And that's when my respect level for Tampa goes up. When I see an Ndamukong Suh, and I go, I don't have 1 ounce of nervousness looking at the high-flying Chiefs. I mean, they're going to be there to fight all day. And having played the Chiefs before, this is a big point, the best indicator you have of what it's like to play the Chiefs is not your coaches talking to you all day and not you watching all the video, Danny. It's down on the field with the guys. I might have said that to you last week on that podcast. Yep. I think it's a big advantage for Tampa that they were out there with Tyreek Hill. They know how fast he is. They know how elusive Patrick Mahomes is. And I think that helps Tampa's chances.
We'll talk a little bit about the wild quarterback scene in the NFL. We love talking quarterbacks with Stan Weber. A few minutes on that coming up next on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. The storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. I'm here with David Schmidt from Private Capital. And David, tell us more about your outstanding firm.
Thanks, Danny. Here at Private Capital, we focus on return on asset. In today's world, it is survival of the fittest. We look at things from all angles and try to figure out what works best for you. The changes we will see this next year on assets will be monumental. The key to success is knowledge. Know where you want to go, and we'll be here along the way. To find out more, give us a call at 816-221-7775.
David Schmidt from Private Capital with the best service for you. Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days, as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the Pure Gold oil. And recently, I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlight 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new Smart Laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. The excitement grows for the Super Bowl, but certainly there's, even if it was not even a Super Bowl week, there's a hell of a lot going on in the National Football League. We've already seen a blockbuster trade of big-time quarterbacks. Let's start with that. Jared Goff, I know you've never been the biggest fan. He played at a high level at the 1 year they went to the Super Bowl and then didn't play a good game in the Super Bowl, obviously, but, put up over 50 against the Chiefs. The play-action game was working. But in the end, he's been found out, and Sean McVay got tired of him, whatever. So he gets traded for Matthew Stafford, a guy who has always shown toughness, has a big arm, seems to have a very good attitude, seems to be a good teammate, but just hasn't won that much. And people can blame it on, the Lions organization, but truly great quarterbacks seem to be able to overcome things like that. How do you assess this trade? The Lions got a whole lot. They got Jared Goff, but they got draft choices too. How about that, and how good do you think Matthew Stafford can be on a good team?
Well, first of all, Sean McVay, the offense that he has given Jared Goff, everyone acts like it's all Goff's fault. And I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen Sean McVay run a different offense, so that's going to be a big factor in how does he adjust to do things the way Stafford wanted. I was totally surprised that Goff got picked that early. I didn't see how, but hey, I didn't watch enough college tape. But when I watched him as a pro, I definitely did not start raising him up as a threat of the great young quarterbacks to play along with Patrick Mahomes. So this final conclusion by the Rams is not much different than my early conclusion of their Super Bowl year, even when they were playing the best. But the one thing I said about the Super Bowl when they got ready to play New England is all they do is fake the run to the right, and the whole offensive line moves to the right, and then he'll bootleg to the left, which really means he bootlegs back to where he would have dropped back straight, if that makes sense, and that's the platform they throw from. To me, it was so easy to stop the Rams' offense. I couldn't believe no one would do it, and New England just said, "Pooh, this is easy." Like they gave it 3 points in the game against the Rams, and kind of exposed maybe that it's all smoke and mirrors what they're trying to do on this bootleg game. So I'm not surprised that Goff is not a super success. I never bought into that. You're right, Danny. Good memory on that. Now Stafford's harder to figure out, and they're going to have to do some things in L.A. to make the game easier for him. I think he's an upgrade. He's not the youngest guy in the world. He throws a good ball. He's on the upper level of the quarterbacks in the NFL, but it's going to be a surprise if he can take the next step and be elite, because he did have a playoff team. You may not remember that. It was only a few years ago. He played Tony Romo in a game in Dallas, and he did okay. But like you said, the quarterback still in today's game got to be able to be more responsible for getting the whole team better. Now you can say Detroit's a disaster and all of that, but I think the Rams will be in competition to be the best team in the NFC, because I think it's fairly open right now. Look how quick the 49ers came up last year, and to me were a legitimate Super Bowl winner, even though the Chiefs beat them, and boom, look where they went. Seattle gives you a great reputation that they're still the same team as they were in 13-14, because Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson are still there, but Danny, their defense stinks. There's complete turnover, and you can't really rely on them either. Do you rely on the New Orleans Saints? Well, there's complete turnover over there. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, post another 12-4 record up next year, but do you think they're going to go win the Super Bowl? I'm not yet.
Right.
The thing is, the NFC's open, so maybe to me it's going to be really a hit or a miss. Either Stafford does what Alex Smith did when he got to Kansas City and said, boom, this is a better version of Alex Smith. We're going to be a playoff perennial team. I could see that happening with Stafford, but I could easily see him, like a Matt Ryan, be good and a good guy, but just not in the same sentence as these dominant quarterbacks. And so I think the Rams upgraded some. This is going to be more about McVay in my mind. But I do think, Danny, you started the whole podcast today talking about the NFL and how dominant it is. And I just saw what happened with this trade, and to talk about quarterbacks, they're saying 15 or 16. Basically, half of the NFL may have different quarterbacks next year. And Aaron Rodgers may stay in Green Bay, but we're going to talk a lot about is he going to move? And the conversation, the Rams said, hey, will you consider trading him? You got the Deshaun Watson soap opera with, oh, man, the spectrum of what can happen from him being convinced that it's okay to come back and play to being a blockbuster trade. Who knows? it just reminds me that the NFL is going to dominate this offseason. I mean, COVID has changed a lot of things, but in the sports world, there's less viewership than there was before. There's less passion, Danny, about sports. I'm not sure what it is. Some people come up to me and say, well, it's just no fans in the stands. That's why they're not into college basketball. But I don't know what it is, but even NFL had a reduction in interest when it comes to numbers of eyes watching the television, and there's just less passion for sports right now with whatever's happened for whatever reason, and the NFL is going to lose less than everybody else. So I just think when this last week unfolded with no game, waiting for the Super Bowl, I go, oh my gosh, the NFL is going to dominate in the offseason. It's going to be hard for baseball to catch people's attentions. It's really going to be hard for the NBA to catch anybody's attention, even in their playoffs. Last year, a lot of people said, I'm not watching this stuff. And college basketball, it hasn't caught on. Does anybody talk about college basketball? It's just a quiet little – it's February, Danny.
Right.
This is key. Yay, the Super Bowl, but, man, college basketball, February, March, here we go. So I don't know, Dan. You may have me on podcasts every week after all. I'm just the NFL's been dominating and keeping it to be a 52-week-a-year thing. And you are the best at laughing about it. Like, how can this possibly be happening? But it's been stronger the last couple years. This year's, I think, is going to be off the charts.
Right. Let me just ask you one more thing, and that's Deshaun Watson. I mean, you mentioned it's such a variable. It seems like he desperately wants to be out of there. I don't know what bridges have been burned. They don't have the same regime. It's not the same general manager. It's not the same coach. He doesn't seem to want a fresh start in that regard. First of all, to me, he's an unbelievable player. He had a really good year under tremendously trying circumstances. Somebody's going to have to give up a mother load to get him, but whoever does, they've got a remarkable player, don't they?
Yeah, they have remarkable potential to what might happen. I do think you have to look at a 4-win season and say, wait a second. To me, there's something missing even with Deshaun Watson. He on any given play, on any given game, he can go off. But, I don't know if he does it all game long. I don't know if he does it in the clutch. He takes sacks. I don't know. I don't want to be too hard on him, but I do not think he's like if you were sitting there, if Patrick Mahomes is mad at the Chiefs and he wants out, I would be barreling over people to say, give up the next 7 first-round draft choices. We'll take this guy. But that's part of what makes Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes so good is they would never allow this situation to occur. I mean, it's a two-way street. Okay, he just signed a contract. Deshaun Watson just signed a contract a year ago, so he somehow seemed like he either just wanted to sign a piece of paper to get some money and a big bonus, or was he committed to the organization? You're the franchise quarterback. And O'Brien was not my favorite coach. I didn't believe in him. But you got J.J. Watt. Why is Houston suddenly just such a disaster? They traded away a wide receiver. I guess they traded away a star wide receiver. But after that, I don't get it how he signed a contract and now, unless he was lied to, okay, if they said you're going to be a part of the general manager decision,
right,
and they lied to him, then okay, I'm going to have a lot more empathy for his position. But I don't think he should be picking the general manager. I don't think he should be picking the head coach. So I think he went up, and sometimes, Danny, you don't keep going up forever because it's hard to be one of the greatest in the – is there anything more that anybody would rather do as a man than be an NFL starting quarterback? I mean, I think almost everybody I've met would love the opportunity to be one of the best in the world at what we all want to be the best at. And yet he's, oh, gosh, he leveled off and he's only the 5th best quarterback. That's not bad, but it's hard to go cranking up the rest of the way. So I wonder if he is really going to kick it into gear and start winning again. But I do think, back to the other trade, I do think that any team that trades, like the Texans, if they trade, or these quarterbacks move, I don't expect those teams to make the trade without getting a starting quarterback back. Okay? From Detroit's perspective, they gave up on Stafford. I don't know how that came about so easily. Snapped the fingers, burned $20 million of dead money, and I can't believe these teams are doing it that quickly, but it's a new regime. Stafford's the old guy, I guess. He's old, so they move him on. But you know what they did? They got Goff as a starting quarterback. That's not a bad placeholder. In fact, Goff has 4 more years, and he may start playing really well. He's just getting to where he may learn another offense and get a better running game. Who knows? But at least they got a starting quarterback. What I don't see is how the Texans, if I'm the general manager or a fan of their team, go, we just gave up Deshaun Watson. How big of idiots are we? And then who's going to be our quarterback? I don't know. I mean, why not get back Sam Darnold if you're going to mess with the Jets?
Right.
Why can't Sam Darnold go win 6 games with the Texans next year? I mean, almost any NFL team, Danny, should win 6 or 7 games. I mean, that's where you should start, 5 to 7,
right?
And then you go off of it. So I think what the Rams and the Lions did that made some sense to me is they actually traded the quarterbacks. So that's what I think the trend will be. If you lose Deshaun Watson, let's bring Sam Darnold in. Don't just throw the Houston franchise up and say because of 2 or 3 or 4 or 7 first-round draft picks, we're going to be fine. I think that's overvaluing draft picks. What I think the Texans are going to do is exactly what we've heard this week, only the latest and start of the soap opera drama, is to talk him into coming back.
Right. Yeah, we'll see.
I think why not just say, hey, that was the old regime? I mean, it was.
I think he may end up coming back, too. Fascinating stuff, Stanton, and we'll be able to break down a Super Bowl. Well, it'll either be Misery Monday or we'll be doing a virtual celebration, one or the other.
What will be the new saying, Danny? You were wanting to be on the leading edge with this GOAT stuff. Have you already thought through the run it back, or what's?
I have not.
One for the thumb. We've heard that one, right? I mean,
right.
when the Bulls won 4, you got to think of something, Danny, because if the Chiefs win 2 in a row, that will be the longest streak in NFL history.
Right.
No one's done it 3 times.
Right.
We've had some teams do 3 out of 4, but no one's done it 3 straight. So run it back. I got that. I don't know who invented run it back. I'd never heard anybody given any credit, but run it back. What will be the saying next Monday after the Chiefs have 2 straight Super Bowl championships?
We'll see if that's the case next Monday when we are back.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com, specializing in expert healthcare guidance and assistance for you.